Billy Cook, born William Collins on December 23, 1928, is infamous for his violent crimes as a hitchhiker in the early 1950s. Cook's criminal spree began shortly after his release from prison for lesser offenses. In December 1950, he embarked on a journey that led to the murder of 6 people. Cook had a troubled childhood. His mother died when he was 5 years old. His father abandoned him and his 7 siblings in an old mine. He became a ward of the state before his 10th birthday, had a nasty temper. This was exacerbated by the teasing and bullying he endured due to a deformed eye. Eventually, he ended up in a Missouri state penitentiary. He was incarcerated for theft and auto theft before his more notorious crimes began. In December 1950, Cook began hitchhiking across the United States. His spree started in Missouri, where he kidnapped a family of 5, Carl and Thelma Mosser, and their 3 Ronald, 7, Gary, 5, and Pamela Sue, 3. Cook forced the family to drive west, eventually murdering all 5, including the family dog, by shooting them and dumping their bodies in a mine shaft near Joplin, Missouri. Cook continued his violent spree by killing a 6th victim, Robert Dewey, a traveling salesman who offered him a lift. Dewey's body was found in his car near Blythe, California. He had been shot. Cook then kidnapped 2 hunters and forced them to drive him across the border into Mexico. There, in a town called Santa Rosalie, the local police chief, Luis Parra, recognized Cook, and he arrested him on the spot. A short time later, he was handed over to the FBI. His trial drew significant media attention. Cook was sentenced to 300 years in prison after being tried and convicted of the Mosser killings in Oklahoma, but was then tried, convicted and sentenced to death in California for the murder of Robert Dewey. On December 12, 1952, at San Quentin, Cook was executed in the prison's gas chamber. He was 23 years old. Cook's crime spree had a significant impact on American society and culture, influencing cautionary tales about the dangers of hitchhiking. His story was the basis for the 1953 film The Hitchhiker, directed by Ida Lupino, which is considered one of the earliest film noir movies directed by a woman. Cook's actions and the subsequent media coverage highlighted the potential dangers associated with picking up hitchhikers and contributed to the decline of the practice in the United States during that era. Would you pick up a hitchhiker? During her teenage years, 17-year-old Amy Billig frequently hitchhiked around the Miami area. On the afternoon of March 5, 1974, Amy left her home in Coconut Grove, intending to visit her father's office. She was last seen hitchhiking along Main Highway, but never arrived at her destination. Her camera was later found at the Wildwood exit on Florida's Turnpike, but Amy herself vanished without a trace. Over the ensuing years, Amy's mother, Susan Billig, embarked on a relentless and often bizarre search for her daughter. A biker named Paul Branch approached Susan, claiming that Amy had been abducted by a notorious biker gang called the Pagans and was being held captive. Driven by hope, Susan traveled across the country following every lead, but was frequently misled and deceived by those she encountered. Paul Branch passed away in 1997 but purportedly made a deathbed confession to his wife. He alleged that Amy had overdosed on the day of her disappearance while attending a party hosted by the Pagans. According to Branch, the gang disposed of her body by feeding it to alligators in the Florida Everglades. For over 2 decades, Susan endured harassing phone calls from a man named Henry Johnson Blair. Blair claimed that Amy was being held captive by a sex slavery ring. When Blair was arrested and charged in 1995, he denied any knowledge of Amy's disappearance. However, Amy's diary contained an entry expressing her desire to run away to South America with a man named Hank, which was Blair's nickname. Despite Susan Billig's tireless efforts and enduring hope, she passed away in 2005 without ever discovering the truth about her daughter's fate. On June 12, 1982, 22-year-old Marty Shook left his mother's home in Sparks, Nevada, embarking on a journey to Colorado. Opting to hitchhike, unfortunately, Marty never reached his destination. 2 days later, a fly fisherman made a gruesome discovery near Daniels Canyon in Wasatch County, Utah: Marty's nude body. He had been shot in the back of the head with a .38 caliber pistol, and most disturbingly, his genitals had been removed and were missing from the scene. This heinous crime would remain unsolved for several years, until authorities linked it to another brutal murder from the previous year. On August 19, 1981, the nude body of 30-year-old Wayne Riefendifer was found in a wooded area near Williamsburg, Pennsylvania. Wayne had also been shot in the back of the head, and his genitals were removed and never recovered. The physical resemblance between Wayne and Marty was striking, and ballistics tests would later reveal that both men had been shot with the same .38 caliber weapon. This connection raised chilling questions about a potential serial killer targeting hitchhikers. Authorities then examined the possibility that these two murders were connected to yet another unsolved homicide. On November 24, 1986, the nude body of 26-year-old hitchhiker Jack Andrews was found at a rest stop in Litchfield, Connecticut. Although Jack had not been shot, and the cause of death was undetermined, his genitals were missing, his nipples had been removed, and both his legs had been severed at mid-thigh. The similarities in the mutilation patterns suggested that the same perpetrator could be responsible for all three murders. Despite the connections and the stomach-churning nature of these crimes, the murders of Marty Shook, Wayne Riefendifer, and Jack Andrews remain unsolved. The cases have baffled investigators, who continue to search for answers and justice for the victims and their families. Kai the hatchet-wielding hitchhiker, born Caleb Lawrence McGilvery on September 3, 1988, became an internet sensation in 2013 due to his unconventional heroism and larger-than-life personality. His fame erupted after a viral video interview where he recounted a dramatic incident in which he used a hatchet to subdue a man attacking a utility worker in Fresno, California. Having left his home in Alberta as a teenager to find his own way in the world, he had gone back different times, back to his family, to school, or work, but that routine never suited him. And by the early months of 2013, he was drifting once again. On February 1, 2013, Kai was hitchhiking when he was picked up by Jet Simmons McBride. During the ride, McBride reportedly began making racist comments and then abruptly rammed his car into a pedestrian, pinning him against a truck. McBride got out of the car and began attacking the bystander. Kai, wielding a hatchet he carried with him, intervened, striking McBride to protect the victim. Kai's recounting of the incident to a local news reporter was charismatic and unfiltered, featuring memorable phrases like "smash, smash, smash." This raw and vivid retelling, coupled with his eccentric appearance and laid-back demeanor, quickly went viral, turning him into an overnight internet celebrity. Memes, remixes, and parodies flooded social media, celebrating his unconventional heroism. With his scruffy and yet charming demeanor, Kai conjured up millions of YouTube views and even made an appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live. Days later, in the parking lot of the show, he apparently urinated on a poster of Kimmel. While Kimmel apparently tried to give the drifter cash, Kai gave it to a security guard for the show, citing the urination trouble he caused. Despite the initial adulation, Kai's life soon took a darker turn. In May 2013, he was arrested and charged with the murder of 73-year-old Joseph Galfi, a New Jersey lawyer. Kai claimed self-defense, alleging that Galfi had drugged and sexually assaulted him. However, the prosecution argued that the evidence pointed to a deliberate act of violence rather than self-defense. Galfi had been beaten to death. In 2019, Kai was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to 57 years in prison. His trial and conviction drew significant media attention, with many debating whether he was a misunderstood hero or a dangerous individual with a violent streak. Kai's story is a complex one that highlights the duality of internet fame and the human tendency to quickly idolize and just as quickly vilify. Initially celebrated as a modern-day folk hero, his later actions in the subsequent trial revealed a troubled and multifaceted individual. The case of Kai the hatchet-wielding hitchhiker serves as a cautionary tale about the fleeting nature of viral fame and the complexities that often lie beneath the surface of sensational stories. It also underscores the unpredictable nature of individuals thrust into the limelight and the challenges they may face when their private struggles become public spectacles. The moral of these harrowing stories is, don't get into cars with strangers. Although, now that I think of it, I guess we do that more than we ever have, with rideshare apps like Uber and Lyft.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoy our content, please support the channel by liking, subscribing, and sharing with your friends. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a new horror story. Your support helps us create more spine-chilling content.